is both a software and a hardware. Okay, technology or educational technology is both a software or a hardware. But our concept about software is different when we refer it to educational technology. You must take note that when we talk about technology in education, these are the tools that we use in our classrooms or in the operation of the institution. But technology of education is the software phase of educational technology. But this refers not to the application or systems that we install in our laptops, but this refers to the theories, to the psychology, to the laws of learning, concepts about learning, theories about learning, the psychology of learning that every teacher must know and must be able to integrate when they design, choose, or implement, okay, the instructional materials they will be using inside the classroom. Okay, so for this time, okay, I'll be using my whiteboard as our IM. Nakikita nyo ba yung whiteboard ko?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So for most of the meetings na gagawin natin, I prefer to use whiteboards like this, okay? Where I will be writing I will be scribbling our lesson instead of using a PowerPoint because I want our lesson to be more spontaneous. Writing on the board feels more spontaneous for me. This is just my personal opinion. Okay, writing on the board feels more spontaneous than using a PowerPoint because when I use PowerPoint, my thoughts are just limited to what's inside the PowerPoint. But when I use a board, when I'm writing on a board, I feel like my thoughts would just flow smoothly and it becomes more spontaneous. But in some cases, I will be using still PowerPoint presentations, okay, and I'll be sending the PowerPoint presentation to your class. By the way, remind me to send the PowerPoint presentation that I used last time because that will be coming out in your quiz later, okay? And also, please listen very carefully to my lesson this afternoon because the concepts that I will be discussing here will also come out in your quiz this afternoon. Okay. Now, if it does not bother you at all, or if it's fine to you, can you please open your camera so that I could see faces naman on the screen and not only my faces? Okay. Gemma, it's okay if you open your camera. I am not bothered at all. So I would appreciate it if you open your cameras while I am discussing so that I could see some reactions coming from you. And when you ask question also, and if you want to answer my questions, if you want to ask questions, you want to participate in the discussion, please open your cameras as well so that I could see your faces, okay? Or raise a hand if you want to talk, to tell something to the class. Okay, so our session for this afternoon, you must take notes, okay? Write notes while I am discussing, be with your notes so that you can write on your notes, okay? Is about why we use technology in our classroom. Okay, the evolution, or not really the evolution, but the stimulus of technology. Okay, the stimulus of technology in education. Okay, when did teachers start using technology inside their classrooms? You must remember that education we are already in the 21st century. Okay, we are already in the 21st century, and the way we do education in the 21st century is very different from how we did it in the past. Okay, from how we did it in the past. For example, you can notice, or you can still remember, the way your teachers arrange the furnitures in their classrooms 30, 20 years ago, or whenever you watch movies that has been produced for over 3 decades. You see that there is a traditional way of arranging furnitures in the classroom. For example, you can see the teacher's table in front, right? And then the chairs are arranged like that, isn't it? Yes or no? And then the boards, the blackboard is in front of the students and behind the teacher. Now, you can see classrooms that are arranged differently, like classrooms that are arranged using a U-shaped form or a horseshoe form, wherein the students are seated in this kind of template. Sometimes your classrooms are arranged according to groups. Like there are tables here, another table here, another table here, another table here, and then the students are seated by group. Okay? Sometimes you can see that the teacher is surrounded here at the center, and then the students are seated surrounding the teacher. So at this point in time, in the 21st century, the classrooms has revolutionized. Okay? There was a revolution, okay, in the structure of the classroom. Okay, there was a revolution in the structure of the classroom. And what can you say about these structures inside the classroom versus the traditional way of doing it in the classroom? Okay, if you are seated, okay, if you are the learner and you are seated in this classrooms A versus in classroom B, how would you feel as a learner? Anyone from the class? Yes, Gemma, you want to answer my question? Or anyone? You can unmute yourself if you want to answer. Kung ikaw ang nakaupo dito sa classroom A versus dito sa classroom B, ano nararamdaman mo bilang isang mag-aaral? How would you feel about it? Or you can, any opinion can do. I mean, you have opinions, right? So just express them if you want to.
I'll try, sir.
Sige, Maribel.
In classroom, sir, it shows that there's interactions among the group because of the arrangement of the chairs as well as the table.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing to set B, sir, in classroom B, I think there's formal arrangement inside the classroom.
There's a formal arrangement in the classroom.
Yes,
So
miss.
if you are the learner
Arrangement
inside
of
classroom
chairs.
B, ano ang feeling mo? Anong climate ang nararamdaman mo?
In classroom A, sir, that it shows that you belong in the group.
Okay.
Because of the arrangement of the chairs, that it shows that how you will communicate or the interactions among the group, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing to classroom B, it shows that parang nagkakaroon siya ng looks like a panel, parang panel arrangement, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Maribel. Those are very good insights about classroom A and B. What about the others? Kung ikaw ang learner naman, ano sa tingin mo ang ginagawa mo sa classroom B versus sa ginagawa mo sa classroom A? Mylene, you want to answer?
Yes, sir.
Sige.
For me, sa classroom B, kung ganyan po yung arrangement ng mga upuan, parang hindi ako masyadong yung attention ko wala masyado sa teacher since kunyari nasa likod ako, so hindi ako masyadong attentive kung ano man yung ituturo niya, at syempre hindi rin ako masyadong mapapansin ng teacher. Unlike dun sa classroom A, may yun nga, sabi ni Ma'am Bell, there will be an interaction and everyone will be recognized by the teacher since yung arrangement niya is letter U.
Okay, thank you so much for your insights, Mylene and Maribel. All your insights are actually correct. And for those who are still momming and thinking about how would they feel about classroom A and B, you know, when you are inside the classroom B, okay, when you're inside the classroom B, you feel like there is an authoritative figure, okay? In other words, the climate is too autocratic, okay? The climate, without an H, wrong spelling. The climate is too autocratic. There's an authority inside the classroom, and the authority inside the classroom is the teacher, okay? Right? And whenever and the students feel like I need to listen to the teacher because the teacher is talking to me. Okay, I need to take notes because the teacher is discussing. Okay, and the authority or the figure of authority is the teacher. Okay, remember when you were in elementary and the classrooms are arranged like this, would you even bother touching the table of the teacher? Who among here is afraid of even touching the table of their teachers? Meron ba sa inyo?
Yes.
Yes, 'di ba? We feel like kasi pag hinawakan mo yung table ng teacher mo, parang ka-level mo lang siya. Pero in reality, sa feeling mo hindi eh because he or she is the teacher. You don't even want to be surrounding kung ayaw mong malapit ka doon sa table ni teacher kasi there's a feeling of takot ka, it feels weird, it feels awkward pag may mga ganong situations, okay? In other words, people, in the traditional way of doing education, it is very autocratic. Okay, it's very autocratic, and we see the teacher as the figure, okay, as the main figure. But in classrooms that are illustrated, okay, in set A, you see here that the climate is democratic. Okay, the climate is democratic. When we say that there's a democratic climate, okay, or a democratic environment in the classroom, it means that the teacher and the learner have exchanges with each other, okay? In other words, the teacher and the learner can make both of them can make decisions about the classroom, okay? Like, okay, class, tatanungin niya yung mga estudyante niya, what do you want to do today? Okay, what classroom activities are you comfortable doing? So there are an array of choices that the learners can freely decide what to do. Okay, that is the essence of a democratic classroom environment. There's an exchange of the ideas. There is no feeling of baka ma-reject yung opinion ko, ma-reject yung idea ko. Okay, because in the democratic classroom environment, the teacher allows the learners to have exchanges of ideas. The teacher allows the learners to have decisions made inside the classroom. Okay? So, yun ang pagkakaiba ng set A, ng classrooms A at ng classroom B. And what we have now, what operates and what should be operating in our learning environment now is, of course, a democratic learning environment for a 21st century education. Okay? For the 21st century education, wherein, okay, the teacher assumes the role of being a facilitator of learning. Okay, the teacher assumes the role of being a facilitator of learning for the 21st century education. Okay, now let's go back to why is it therefore, ano ngayon yung stimulus ng technology, yung paggamit ng technology sa education? Definitely, because in the 21st century, ang mga teachers ay nagiging facilitator na lang. At ang partner ng mga teachers, okay, the instrument that teachers use in order to facilitate learning is, of course, what the technology. Okay, so the reason, the stimulus of using technology, okay, in the classroom, okay, is the very fact that teachers assume the roles of being the facilitator of learning. Okay, assumes the role of being the facilitator of learning. Okay? Kung dati, okay, ang mga strategies na ginagamit sa pagtuturo most of the time would be lecture, okay? What else? Reading activities, okay? What else? Drills and practice, sit works, for example. Okay? These are one-way communication. Okay, it allows one-way communication. When you have lectures, the information is coming from the teacher, then goes to the learner. Okay, when you read, The information is coming from the book, then goes to the learner. Okay? Can the learner interact with what he or she is reading in the book? No, there's no interaction happening there. Okay? So, however, with the presence of technology, it opens more opportunities for the teachers to assume the role of being a facilitator of learning. Okay? For example, meron na tayong mga technologies katulad ng, of course, our PowerPoint presentations are becoming more interactive for the learner. Okay? There are interactive assessment tools. There are already interactive encyclopedias or ebooks. Okay? There are also simulation applications. Okay, simulation applications. And of course, and many more, many other technologies. And of course, authentic experiences. Okay, so technology have made this possible for teachers. Technology have made, okay, possible for teachers to assume their role as facilitator of learning. Okay, so again, what do we facilitate as teachers? We facilitate learning. Okay, we facilitate learning. But ano nga ba ang learning? Okay, what is learning for us? Okay, in order for us to effectively facilitate learning, teachers must understand how learning happens in the classroom. I always say this to my students. To be an effective teacher is to know what learning is and how learning happens. Okay, so what is learning? Okay, what is learning? Any idea from the class? Paano mo masasabi ng isang tao o ang mga anak nyo o ang mga kapatid nyo ay natututo and they are learning? Romelyn, you want to answer? Nag-unmute lang siya. Anyone from the class? Anna Marie. O Anna Marie, ikaw, sige. What do you think?
Learning is a process that leads to change which occurs as a result of experience and increases the potential for improved performance and future learning.
O, sa iyong pagkakaintindi, ano yan?
Kasi yung learning, sir, for example, sir, kaming mga estudyante, sir, for you, sir, for example, sir, may mga, yung topics mo, sir, kumbaga na-obtain namin yung mga lessons na binibigay mo, sir, ganun, sir, yung learning, sir.
Okay, so na-obtain mo yung information, na-obtain mo yung lesson. So let's use that word, no? Obtaining information. Anyone from the class? What is learning?
Sir, try.
Yes.
I think learning, sir, when we say learning, sir, when there's a change in your behavior. So, kung may pagbabago sa behavior mo, sir, learning is taking place. So, ibig sabihin, sir, natututo ka.
Alright, let's use that word.
Yun.
A change in
That's all, sir.
behavior. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Maribel. Any more? Class? Sino yung nag-raise ng hand kanina, aside from Anaman? Rina. Sige, Rina.
Third try po.
Sige.
There's a changing way of learning, tapos modified and improved changes po.
Modified and improved changes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All that your classmates have mentioned are actually correct. Okay. However, these are presenting to us two phases of how learning happens. Okay. In fact, learning, may dalawang muka ang learning. Okay. There are actually two major theoretical perspectives of learning. Okay? Yung una, ang learning ay pagbabago sa behavior. Okay? There is a change in behavior. But that is not the entire definition of it. Later, I'll discuss it to you. Okay? There's a change in behavior. However, another school of thought is saying that learning is acquiring information. Okay? Acquiring, processing information. These two definitions, ladies and gentlemen, presents to us that we have two understanding of what learning is. If it's a change in behavior, that it subscribes to the behaviorism school of thought. Do not forget, behaviorism school of thought. But if it is acquiring, processing information, then we are subscribing to what we call the Cognitivism school of thought. Okay? Cognitivism school of thought. Okay? Ano ang root word ng behaviorism? What is the root word of behaviorism?
Behavior.
Behavior. What about the root word of cognitivism?
Cognitive.
Cognitive. Anong ibig sabihin pag cognitive? When we say cognitive, it's the what works here in a cognitive, in the cognitive. It's the brain, no? It's the brain. It's the mind. Kaya siya tinawag na cognitive. All right? So, now, in the behaviorist point of view, learning people, according to the behaviorism point of view, learning is a permanent, okay? It is a permanent change in behavior due to experience. Okay? It's a permanent change in behavior due to experience. Ito ay isang permanenteng pagbabago sa behavior ng isang tao dulot ng isang experience, due to experience. Okay? For example, when did you first learn or when did you first know na ang lasa? Kailan yung unang nalasahan at nasabi na ang kanin ay panis na? Okay? When did you first learn that? Ha? Kailan? Kailan mo unang nalasahan ng panis na kanin? Jessica, ikaw, nag-unmute ka. You want to answer?
Sir, nung ano po, nung natikman na po.
Kailan yon? Like when you were 5, 4, 6 years old? Kailan?
Siguro sir, mga 6 ganun po.
Mga 6 years old. Nung natikman mo ba yung lasa ng panis na kanin, alam mo agad na panis yon o hindi?
Opo.
So someone did not tell you, panis na, ganon?
Sinabi naman po, sir.
Sinabi. So when did you learn that that is the taste of not good na, hindi na pwedeng kanin, panis na kanin na? When is it when you tasted it and you learned it yourself, or when someone told you that it is like that? It's how it's yun yung lasa ng panis na kanin.
Nung sir, nung sinabi na po.
Okay, nung sinabi sa'yo. Alright. Now, the next time na nakaamoy ka ng ganung amoy na kanin, kakainin mo pa rin ba?
No, sir.
Not anymore, right? So, question. Nung pinili mong hindi kainin ang panis na kanin, was there a change in behavior?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Is it permanent?
No, sir.
Why not? Why not? Okay, remember Why not? Eh, di ba? Nung una mong natikman, alam mo na kung ano ang amoy, ano ang lasa ng panis na kanin. The next time around that you will be able to smell and taste rice like that, kakainin mo pa ba?
Hindi na po, sir.
Hindi na.
Hindi na
The
po.
third time na makakaamoy ka ulit, kakainin mo pa ba? Will you attempt to even taste it?
No, sir.
No, not
sir.
anymore. So question, was there a change in behavior?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Was it permanent?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Kasi kahit pang-4, pang-5, pang-6 na beses mong magawin yan, andun pa rin, alam mo na kung anong lasa at anong amoy ng panis na kanin. Question, was it due to experience?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And question, is it learning?
Yes, sir.
Yes. That is the point
Yes.
of behaviorism. According to the behaviorist school of thought, learning is a permanent change in behavior due to experience. So, di ba, sabi nga ng minsan naririnig yung mga kaibigan yun, ako, hindi ka na natuto. Kailan nila sinasabi yun pag hindi ka na natuto? Maylin, tumatawa ka. Kailan mo sinasabi yung, naku, ano ba yan? Hindi ka na natuto. Balik ka ng balik pa rin sa kanya. Alam mo na masasaktan ka. O,
Sir.
when did you say that? What's at the back of your mind when you say, ako, hindi ka na natuto?
Hindi, parang wala kang hindi mo lang pinag-aralan, ganun. Nangyari na
Or-
tapos uulitin mo pa.
O inuulit-ulit mo pa. Alam mo nang mali yung ginagawa mo, okay? Pero inuulit-ulit mo pa. Okay? So hindi siya natuto kasi walang pagbabago sa behavior. Di ba? Pagka nakita mo na yung kalaguyo mo na may kasamang iba at alam sweet na sweet sila, what would be the change in your behavior? Siyempre, iiwanan mo na siya, di ba? Siyempre, parang mababawasan na yung pagmamahal mo sa kanya. That would be the expected change in behavior. The moment na sasabihin mo, ay mahal ko pa rin siya, babalikan ko siya, kahit pa ulit-ulit niya akong lolokohin, walang pagbabago sa behavior niya. And therefore, there was no learning at all. Because there is no permanent change in behavior. So it's very crucial that for learning to be learning, there must be a change in behavior, and that change must be what we call as permanent. Okay? Must be permanent. Okay? And take note, the behaviorist point of view about learning emphasizes that there must be a demonstration of that behavior. Okay, there must be a demonstration of that behavior. Okay, for a while. Okay, so nasa na ako? There is a demonstration of that behavior. There is a anong tawag dito? External demonstration. Nakikita, napapanood ng teacher, ginagawa ng estudyante. Okay? Kasi in a behaviorist point of view, all right, there is a stimulus. There must be always a stimulus and a response. Okay? There must be always a stimulus or a response. So, halimbawa, pag tinanong ka ni teacher about something, what is 1 plus 1? Sabi ni teacher, what is 1 plus 1? Si teacher yan. Ano ang response mo? So, the response of the student is 2. Okay? So this is the stimulus, the question of the teacher is the stimulus. The answer of the student is your response. Okay? Can you observe someone answering the correct answer? Of course. Responding to the question. So responding is a demonstration that you know the answer to this addition problem. All right? So, when you answer 1 plus 1 as 2, and then the next time around natatanong ng teacher mo yan, 1 plus 1, at ang sagot mo, 3, okay? There is no, what is that? There is no what?
Change.
There's no change, and therefore there is no learning. Di ba? There's no learning. So, lalo na yung mga nanay na dito, yung tinuturuan yung mga anak magbasa. O, di ba? Anong ginagawa nila? Pinapaulit-ulit nila. Di ba? Ano ulit to? A. Ano to? E. I. O. U. Ulit. A. Uulitin at uulitin yan. Why? Why do they always do repetition? Because you want the change to be permanent. So, repetition is very crucial in learning. Okay? Repetition is crucial in learning according to the behaviorist point of view. Okay? So, whenever you design classroom instructional designs or lesson plans, and you subscribe and you are a behaviorist teacher, you would always want to have experiences that would allow your learners to demonstrate what they learned. Okay? To demonstrate what they learned. For example, role playing is a demonstration of what you have learned. Okay? What else? Games are examples of behaviorist strategies, because there is a stimulus and then there is a response. Okay? Now, in a cognitive point of view, there must be information processing. Okay? This is enshrined on the idea that learning happens when there is information processing. Okay? Information processing. So, according to the Cognitivist school of thought, there are certain behaviors that cannot be demonstrated outwardly. Okay? There are certain learning behavior that cannot be demonstrated outwardly. Hindi mo siya na-observe. Okay? You cannot observe it. Unobservable behaviors. Unobservable behavior. For example, memorization. Can you observe someone memorizing? Can you observe or can you tell someone that he or she has memorized something by just looking at him?
Yes,
No.
sir.
Right? Understanding. Okay? By just merely looking at Gemma right now, I would not know if he or she's understanding my lesson. Right, Gemma? You're taking down notes, but I would not know whether you understand my lesson or not. Okay? Or maybe Rina here, I would not know if Rina has memorized what I just said a while ago. However, understanding a concept, okay, understanding a theory, memorizing cognitivism, memorizing behaviorism are processes in information. These are processes that are happening inside our minds, okay, inside our brain. There are brain functions happening here when we do these things, okay? And this, according to cognitivism, are manifestations of learning, okay? These are manifestations of learning, okay? So even though there is no observable behavior, okay, as long as there's an understanding of the theory, there's a storing of information in the mind, okay, and they can use those concepts and theories to manage or modify their behavior, then those are manifestations of learning. Okay, those are manifestations of learning. And in fact, many of the things or many of the lessons that we had in the past when we were in elementary or high school are just purely memorized information. Diba? Kailan mo nagamit ang geometry sa buhay mo? Kailan mo nagamit ang trigonometry sa buhay mo? Oh, right? Kailan mo nagamit ang parts of the cell sa buhay mo? Diba? Some of us simply memorize the parts of the cell. But to the point when we use those knowledge to our living, to our work, or to any other endeavor that we have in our lives, malabo. Okay? So that's the point of cognitivism. And in fact, even though it's cognitivist or behaviorist, there are technologies in education that are used in order to foster yung concept ng cognitivist sa learning. For example, mnemonic devices are cognitive devices. You know what mnemonic devices are? Mnemonic, M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C, mnemonic. You know what mnemonic devices are? For example, what are the colors in the rainbow? Roy, G, Bill. This is an example of a mnemonic device because it allows you to memorize the colors of the rainbow. Diba? To store the colors in the rainbow. What is R?
Red.
Red, orange,
Orange.
yellow,
Orange,
green,
yellow,
blue,
green,
indigo, and violet.
Violet.
So does this make you memorize concepts easily?
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
call
sir.
those
Yes,
mnemonic devices. So when you implement classroom strategies or experiences to our students that hasten their minds, their memorization skills, their understanding skills, you are actually using technologies under the cognitivist point of view. Okay? What other mnemonic devices do you know? Ano pa yung ibang mnemonic devices na alam niyo? Oh, wala na kayo natatandaan.
Using this one, sir. This.
Ano yun, Maribel? Di namin makita.
Yung, ano ba, sir? Using this one, sir.
Sa ano? Sa months.
Sa monster, yes.
Yes. That's also a device. But that's not a mnemonic device, ha? Okay. It's, I don't know how do you call this one. But, it's a strategy of remembering things, okay?
Yes.
Okay. What else?
Sir.
Kanta.
Yes, using jingle.
Yes.
Okay, jingle is also a device that makes learning that can make learners remember things. Okay, di ba? Naalala niyo pa yung pinagpapagawa kayo ng jingle ng teacher niyo ng elementary about the skeletal system, the muscular system. Ano yung jingle na alam niyo?
Jingle.
Oh. Hindi jingle ni Lenny o ni Marcos, ha? O kaya ni Jepsor o ni Marila. May lating, di ba may ganun? Oh, those are jingle. But in learning, what are the jingles you know? Example, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. There are 8 planets. Oh, diba? It can make us memorize the 8 planets. Oh. So that is just one example of a jingle. So pag ito, ginagamit mo sa classroom mo, oh yan, those are cognitive strategies in learning. Okay?
Meron pa isa, sir.
Ano pa?
PEMDAS.
Oh, PEMDAS. Oh, that is a mnemonic device in remembering
Yes, sir.
the process, no? The sequence when you are confronted with a problem that uses, or an equation that uses multiple operations. So
Yes,
P
sir.
stands for,
Parenthesis, sir.
and then E stands for
Exponent.
exponent, multiplication, division,
Division, addition, and subtraction.
subtraction. And many more, marami pa yan. In the field of sciences, marami pa yan.
Radiation of planets.
Yes. Okay. So, any question?
None, sir.
None. So that's cognitivism and behaviorism. Now, another is what we call as constructivism. Constructivism is a school of thought or a theoretical perspective in educational technology that believes that learning happens, okay, when learners can create knowledge. Okay, they create knowledge from the word construct. Okay, when you say construct, you do something. Okay, the whole point of constructivism as a theoretical perspective of educational technology is anchored on project-based learning. Project-based learning. So to say that someone has learned, there must be a demonstration of that behavior through an output, okay, through a product, okay, a project or a product. So when you allow your learners to make materials, to make a lot of things in the classroom as a demonstration of their learning, then that's constructivism. Okay. For example, in mathematics, when you make them do polygons or any stuff, okay, na pwede nilang gawin as a project or as a product, then that's constructivism. Okay. So pag meron kang pinapagawa sa kanila, may nade-derive silang proyekto, may nade-derive silang produkto dun sa lesson nila, then that's constructivism. Okay? So, in summary, there are three theoretical perspectives of EdTech. Theoretical perspectives. And this gives us ideas about how learning happens. And these are, what is the first one? Behaviorism. The second one is
Cognitivism.
cognitivism. And the last one is
Constructivism.
constructivism. Now, I would like to add another one, which is connectivism. Some books do not have this, huh? Connectivism. Okay. So, in a connectivism perspective, okay, this is emphatic on networking. Okay. This is emphatic on networking, on socialization. It believes that learning best happens when information are shared to other people. Okay? Learning best happens when there's a sharing of information. So from the root word of theory, it's anong ibig sabihin ng connect? Diba? From the word connect. So when you connect with other people, learning best happens. So for example, if you conduct group activities, okay, if you are fond of implementing group activities, or you are using network games in your classrooms, then that is clinging to the ideas presented by the cognitivism theoretical perspective. Okay? So group activities, network games, ano pa ba? Social media, learning boards. Okay? So when you use social media as a tool in learning, then you subscribe into the point of connectivism. That there's learning happening when collaborative learning, for example. Okay? So, as you can see, these theoretical perspectives, there are areas wherein they overlap with each other. Okay? In fact, many experiences that we implement in our classrooms are overlapping with each other as regards your classification, if it's behaviorism, if it's cognitivism, if it's constructivism, or connectivism. But the important point here is that you understand the emphasis, or you understand the essence of these four theoretical perspectives. So what is the essence of behaviorism? The essence of behaviorism is that learning happens when there is a change in behavior. And that behavior must be observable, nakikita, okay, napapanood, na-o-observe. However, sabi ng ilan, hindi naman lahat ng behavior ay pwedeng mong makita. Di ba? Hindi naman lahat ng pagkatuto o ng learning ay pwedeng mong makita. Halimbawa, ang pag-memorize, ang pag-understand ng isang konsepto ay hindi mo naman nakikita. Hindi mo pwedeng buksan ang utak ng tao para makita mong naggumagana yung utak niya. Okay? Ayun ang point ng cognitivism. Information processing. According to constructivism naman, ang learning dapat meron kang ginagawa. May ginagawa ang bata na demonstration. There must be a project or a product as a demonstration of their learning. Okay? Nakagawa ako ng ganito, nakagawa ako ng polygon. Ibig sabihin, alam ko kung ano ang square, kung ano ang solid objects. Nakagawa ako ng essay, and therefore I know something about it. Nakadraw ako ng ganito, and therefore I know something about the cell. However, sabi ng connectivism naman, well, you are all correct. Okay, you are all correct. But in the 21st century learning must be shared. Okay? Learning must happen with other people. No man is an island for us. Okay? There is no monopoly of learning. Ang alam mo ay pwedeng hindi alam ng iba. At ang alam ko ay maaring hindi alam din ng iba. Maaring may alam ka na hindi ko alam. Kaya dapat tayong magtulungan. There must be socialization. There must be sharing of information. That is what we call as connectivism. Okay? So do you understand the four and their differences?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, moving on. Okay, moving on.
Yes, sir.
Any question before we go? Before we proceed to the next concept that I have to discuss. So in your quiz later, one of the questions there is, there will be an example of a classroom situation. And you have to identify kung anong theoretical perspective yung nagaganap doon sa sitwasyon na yun. So, halimbawa, kung si teacher ay gumagamit ng PowerPoint, kung si teacher ay nagle-lecture sa klase, kung si teacher ay nagpapadrills, nagpapapractice sa klase, what theoretical perspective is operating in that classroom situation? Okay. All right. So, now that we know what learning is, how is learning happening? That's the next question. Okay? How is learning happening? Now, remember that learning can happen in three ways. Okay? One is called direct experience. Okay? Direct experience. The second one is vicarious. Vicarious experience. A third one is instructional presentation. Okay, instructional presentation. Sir, anong pagkakaiba ng mga yan? What is direct experience? What is vicarious experience? And what is instructional presentation? All right. Gemma, can I ask you a question? Nasa work ba si Gemma? Or anyone who wants to volunteer? Si ano na lang, si Jessica. Jessica,
Sir.
when did you know na pag hinawakan mo ang plancha na naka-on, masasaktan ka o papaso ka?
Kapag ano po, sir, once na ano, na-touch mo siya, tapos na ano ka, parang
In your
na-trigger
own
ka po.
experience, how did you know it?
Ano, ang plancha, sir, pag ano, mainit po, talagang nag-ano siya, parang sumisingaw siya, ganun, sir.
So,
So,
hinawakan mo ba yung plancha?
opo. And, sir, pag ano, ganito po kasi, pag ano, di ba, siya po, yan ng po.
Okay, sige. Si Ana Marie may sagot. O, Ana Marie, ikaw.
Kumbaga sir, tawag doon yung ano na yun sir, kumbaga nasa mind mo na yun sir. Yung already exist na yun na, for example, alam mo na ganun yung mangyayari kaya na mainit.
So, nung pinanganak ka ng nanay mo, dati na nasa utak mo yun.
Hindi naman sir, kumbaga,
ano?
yung, kumbaga parang ano ng, yung information ng others mo sir, yung
Information ng others.
yung nalalaman mo sir.
So, there was someone who told you. Tama?
Yes sir. Ganun.
Okay.
Yes po.
All right. Exactly. Why did I ask you that? Because if you ask yourself, how did I learn? There are many answers to that. Una, maaaring na-experience mo mismo, di ba? Ikaw mismo yung nagpa-plancha ka, accidentally, nahawakan mo yung dulo ng plancha at nasabi mo, aba, mainit pala. O, napaso ako. Pwede rin naman na napanood mo yung nanay mo, habang namamalansya siya, aksidente niyang nahawakan yung plancha at napaso siya. O, kung ikaw ba naman nakita mo yung nanay mo napaso, gagawin mo ba ulit yun? Susubukan mo kaya? Di ba? Hindi, baka sasabihin mo ba, mas makapal yung ano ko, mas makapal yung balat ng kamay ko. Kahit nasubukan ko, hindi ako mapapaso. Okay? Hindi, di ba? So, those are two ways. Okay? Two ways yun. Una, ikaw mismo yung naka-experience. Pangalawa, nakita mo sa ibang tao. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng direct experience. When you directly experience it, ikaw mismo ang nakaranas at natuto ka from that experience, we call that direct experience. But when you have watched someone and learned from that someone, what we call that vicarious experience. In other words, this is a first-hand experience, while the other one is a second-hand experience. All right. So learning from others is what we call vicarious experience. When you learn through observation, okay, vicarious yan. Pero kung ikaw mismo ang nandun, we call it direct experience. But learning, some of the things, many of what we know, what we have learned, are not through direct or vicarious experience, but most of them are through instructional presentation. So let's use the plancha example. Kung ikaw mismo yung namamalansya at nahawakan mo at napasok ka, the next time around, di mo na gagawin yun, that's direct experience. But when someone told you so, or when you watch, not someone told you so, when you watch someone na napasok, at di syempre di mo na gagawin yun, that's vicarious experience. Pero kung nabasa mo doon sa box ng plancha, na pag ito ay naka-on, wag na wag mo nga hawakan kasi mapapaso ka, o kaya naman sinabi sa'yo ng isang tao, that's what we call instructional presentation. Okay? So, an instruction was presented to you. Okay? Yun. Okay, yun ang pagkakaiba ng direct, vicarious, at ng instructional presentation. However, many times in our lives or in our classrooms, these experiences are overlapping to each other. Okay? Ibig sabihin nun, pwedeng direct experience, pwedeng instructional presentation, ang ginagawa mo sa classroom. Okay? Diba? Halimbawa, pag nagtuturo ka about the parts of the flower, you can let them visit the garden. That's a direct experience. And once they go back, Once they have the flowers already on their hands, then you can start teaching the parts of the flower, and that becomes instructional presentation. Okay, so they are overlapping. There are areas wherein these experiences overlap with each other. Okay? The direct experience, the instructional presentation, and vicarious experience. Okay, so to further understand these three, a model of experiences was actually developed by the person whose name is Edgar Dale. Okay, Edgar Dale. Okay, in the 60s. Okay, he developed a model that presents to us the different experiences. Okay, that can be implemented in the classroom. Okay, and that will be our lesson for next meeting. Okay, so we have this first, and then next meeting we'll discuss Edgar Dale's con of experience and Jerome Bruner's three-tiered model of learning. All right. Okay, so any question?
Answer.
Answer.
For a while. Okay, I'm just showing you a test. These are examples of learning or not learning, and tell me if this is learning or not. Yeah. Okay, write your answer. If it's learning or not, type learning or not learning. Okay, number one muna. Is this learning or not learning? Okay. Maraming nagsasabi ng learning. Bakit to learning, Jezerine?
Kasi sir,
Jezerine?
oh,
Nasaan si
kasi
Jezerine?
present sir.
Can you please open your camera, Jezerine? O bakit learning?
Kasi namin kasi alam
Ano?
mong funny. Kasi alam mo sa mga sir na kasi funny yung amoy niya sir. Hindi maganda yung amoy niya.
Okay. So parang ito yung example natin dun sa panis na kanin kanina, di ba?
Yes sir.
Okay. All right, next. All right. Thank you, Jezerine. Okay, number 2. Learning or not, gaining weight or growing taller? Write your answer. Gaining weight or growing taller? Learning or not? Answer. O, isa pa lang sumagot. Dalawa. Oh, Jessica, not learning. And then, tanong ko na si Jessica kanina. Oh, Harriet, ikaw naman. Harriet, bakit ang sagot mo not learning?
Kasi sir, part of
Harriet, your video, please. Ayan, nasa ano ka?
sir, kasi part of growth development na yun, hindi mo siya makokontrol.
So is there a change in behavior when you gain weight or grow taller?
Wala sir. Kasi katulad ng yung growing taller sir,
Oh.
part na yun ng development ng katawan mo sir. Na talagang
Yeah.
tatangkad
Although
ka.
there will be changes in your behavior when you gain weight or when you grow taller, di ba? For example, when you grow taller, you will be more, you will be more fond of playing sports, basketball, because you have grown taller. So there's a change in behavior. But the next question is, why was it due to experience? So when you grow taller, is that due to experience? No, that's a natural occurrence. Okay, that's part of growth and development according to Harriet. Okay. All right, last. Learning or not learning? Write your answer. We're learning or not learning? Okay, Anna Marie answered learning. Jessica answered learning. Maribel answered learning. What about the others? Ay, ang ganda. Magkano yan? Parang Dr. Martin. Dapat binigyan mo din ako. Mura lang. Anong sagot? Learning? Lahat kayo learning? Sinong not learning?
Learning, sir.
O, sinong not learning? Sino? Sino dito ang matapang at sasabihin hindi ito learning? Anyone? Not learning? Nasaan na sagot ng iba? Bakit ko continue sa sagot? Oh, what is it? Learning or not learning?
Learning, sir.
Oh, bakit Maribel?
Because there is a instructional presentation, sir, meaning presented by someone or other, sir, in the consumption of alcohol.
Oh, sige, iba naman. Oh, okay, sige. Learning according to Maribel. What about the others? O, Cherilyn, ikaw. Cherilyn. Ano sagot mo? Learning, sabi mo. Bakit learning? Oh, anyone who wants to answer? Ryan, you said learning. Why? Why learning, Ryan?
Sir, from the word interpersonal skills, sir, you should, when you say skills, sir, you should know to learn, sir.
Naintindihan niyo ba yung demonstrating perceived heightened interpersonal skills? Ha? O, salit ha? Hindi ibig sabihin pag mahaba ang option, siya na ang tamang sagot, ha? Ano ibig sabihin yan? Ang ibig sabihin yan, demonstrated perceived heightened interpersonal skills na maging sociable ka, naging madaldal ka sa tao, dala ng alcohol consumption. Nakainom ka, kaya dumaldal ka. O ang tanong, is that learning?
Not,
Tinagalog ko na. O ano, Ana Marie, nagbago na isip mo.
not learning, sir.
O bakit hindi?
Just because yung sinabi mo, sir, na kasi kami, sir, for example, yung word na demonstrating person height and interpret. For me, sir, kasi hindi namin naintindihan yung answer. Yung paragraph, sir, kumbaga, hinulaan lang.
O ngayon at naintindihan mo na. O bakit hindi siya learning?
Hindi siya learning, sir, kasi syempre mali yun, sir, yung itong paragraph na to, sir. Kumbaga, alangan naman gagawin mo yung mali, sir.
Aha. Any more? Any idea pa? Bakit hindi ito learning? Mylene, did you change your answer? O si
Kasi kusang
Ryan,
lumalabas sa personal mo, sir.
Yes,
Personal
Ryan. Ano?
Kasi lumalabas lang siya sa kusang personality mo, sir.
Aha.
Pag nakainom ka or what.
Aha. O Mylene, ikaw, are you changing your answer?
Yes, sir, not learning.
Bakit?
Yung behavior na pagiging socialized or pagiging madaldal, for example, lumalabas lang siya kapag or kapag nakainom ka, ganun. May lakas ng loob ka lang may pagdaldalan or makipag-socialize sa ibang tao kapag meron kang may nakainom ka, kaya malakas yung loob mo.
Aha, okay. Sige, balik tayo sa definition ng learning, di ba? Learning is a permanent change in behavior due to experience. Ang unang tanong, pag ikaw ba nakainom at dumaldal ka, may pagbabago sa behavior mo?
Yes, sir.
Diba? Ang
Definitely,
pangalawang
sir.
tanong, permanente ba?
Hindi naman.
No, sir.
O
No,
hindi.
no, sir.
Lang, sir.
Bakit hindi permanente? Kasi pag gising mo kinabukasan,
Sir.
pagkatapos ng session nyo, balik
Back to
ka sa
normal.
pagiging
Normal.
normal. Oh.
Effect
So,
of
is that learning if the change in behavior is not permanent?
No, sir.
Yes or
Not
no?
learning.
Sir,
Not learning.
Not learning.
So when you identify an example, if it's learning or not, you ask yourself first, is there a change in behavior? O, kung meron, ang pangalawang tanong, permanente ba yung change in behavior? O, kung permanente ba, ito ba ay due to experience? O, okay, to a learning experience, ha? O, halimbawa, pang-apat, alala nyo pa yung panahon na, alam nyo yung panood na Inday Badiday?
Yes,
Inday
sir.
Badiday ba yun? Hindi yun
Yes,
Inday
sir.
Badiday.
Eye to eye, sir.
Hindi, si Maricel Soriano, yung meron siyang lampara ba yun? Tapos may lalabas na genie.
Hintay sa bot.
Inday Badida yata. Yung may, yung meron siyang ano, hindi genie yun eh. Yung,
I think sir yung
bote.
Inday sa bote, sir. Yung
Oh,
bote.
Inday sa bote yun.
Inday
Oo.
bote.
Di ba there was
Inday
there was
bote.
a scene there na tumalino siya, di ba? Na marunong siya magsalita ng Spanish, ng ganun, ng ibang language. So the first question was there a change in behavior? There was, di ba? Is it permanent? It is becoming permanent. Pero ang next question doon, is it due to an experience? Hindi, di ba?
No, sir.
Kasi it was due to the wish, di ba? It was due to a wish being fulfilled by the magical creature. But another example of that would be amnesia, or yung mga nangyayaring pagbabago sa brain functions pag nabagok yung ulo mo. Minsan yung tao tumatalino, yung minsan nakakagain ng information, better information, but that experience or that change in behavior, of course, is not due to experience. Okay? Due to learning experience. So those are some examples of that. Okay? All right. So, any question? Kayo. Did you learn today? All right. Wala sumasagot, so walang learning.
Sir, lahat ba ng permanent is learning or not at all?
Lahat ng permanent is learning.
Yes, sir.
Not. Kasi meron tayong mga pangatlong criteria eh. If it's due to experience. So if it's not due to experience, then it is not learning.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
However, take note ha. According to Edward Lee Thorndike, there are laws of learning. Meron tayong tinatawag na law of use and disuse. Sometimes what we learned becomes unlearned. Why? Because we are not using it. Okay? Halimbawa, kung ako ay nag-aral ako ng cooking, nag-aral ako ng paggawa ng braso de Mercedes, at marunong akong gumawa ng braso de Mercedes, pero nag-apply ako sa isang trabaho na hindi ko naman kailangan gumawa ng braso de Mercedes. So in time, makakalimutan ko yung skill sa paggawa ng braso de Mercedes. So there is now what we call unlearning what we have learned. Okay? So we call that law of disuse. Tendency of people who do not use what they have learned tend to forget what they have learned. Okay? We call that law of disuse. Okay? So we will come across that in the laws of learning in the next sessions that we will have. So anyway, before you take your quiz, are there any questions? So I hope that you learned something today, and you'll be needing that for our next sessions. All right. So please open your cameras for documentation. Pagka mag-documentation, open nyo agad yung camera nyo. Pagka magtatanong ako ng question, wala man lang mag-open ng camera. Yuri. Yung iba naman, nasaan ang camera nyo? Hindi siya nare-record. Yuri, let's take a picture daw. Yuri, no. Take a picture. Yuri. Okay, in 3. Wait lang. Okay, smile. 3, 2, 1, smile. One more. 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. So thank you for joining our class. I hope you guys learned something today.
Thank you,
You
sir.
will use that in your quiz day.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye,
sir.
everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye, sir.